You send the message. You watch the check marks appear, read, seen, opened, and then nothing. No reply, no reaction, just silence. And something happens to you in that silence that you probably didn't expect. Because this isn't just uncomfortable. It isn't just rude. What's happening to your brain right now is something researchers have started calling one of the most psychologically painful experiences a person can have in modern life. And the fact that it happens dozens of times a day to most people and nobody talks about it is exactly why we need to. In 2003, psychologist Kipling Williams at Purdue University developed something called the Cyberball experiment. Participants were told they'd be playing a simple online ball-tossing game with two other players. They'd receive passes, throw passes back, and that was it. 30 seconds of a meaningless game on a screen. What participants didn't know was that the other two players were computer programs, and halfway through the game, those programs stopped passing the ball to the participant entirely. They just kept throwing to each other. The participant was frozen out. After 30 seconds of exclusion from a ball-tossing game, they didn't even want to play, with people they'd never met and would never meet. Participants reported significant drops in 4 fundamental needs: the need to belong, the need for control, the need for meaningful existence, and the need for self-esteem. 30 seconds. A ball that wasn't real, people who didn't exist, and the pain was real. If this seems disproportionate, that's because you're measuring it by the wrong standard. Your brain doesn't evaluate social pain the way you consciously do. It doesn't weigh context or remind itself that it's just a game, or just a text, or just a stranger on the internet. The parts of the brain that process social exclusion are the same parts that process physical pain. Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA put participants in an fMRI scanner and had them play Cyberball. When they were excluded, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the region most associated with the distress component of physical pain, lit up. The same area that activates when you burn your hand. Social rejection doesn't feel like pain. It is pain, processed by the same neural architecture, rated on the same scale, remembered with the same intensity. This is why being ignored hurts in a way that's hard to explain or justify. You're not being dramatic, you're being accurate. Now imagine this happening not once in a lab, but dozens of times a day. A message left unread, a comment that got no response, a contribution in a meeting that nobody acknowledged, a joke that landed in silence, a text you sent 3 days ago to someone you care about who hasn't replied. Each of these is a small-scale exclusion event. Each one pings the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. Each one triggers a threat response, a low-level activation of the same system that would fire if you heard a predator outside. And here's where it compounds. Williams's research showed that when exclusion happens repeatedly over time, people move through 3 stages. The first is reflexive, the immediate pain response. The second is reflective. You try to restore the need that was threatened. You reach out again. You adjust your behavior. You find ways to feel included elsewhere. But if exclusion continues, if the need stays unmet, people eventually move into a third stage called resignation. A kind of psychological numbing. They stop reaching out. They stop trying to restore connection. They withdraw. This is why chronic digital silence isn't just annoying. It's one of the mechanisms by which people slowly stop believing their presence matters. Before we go any further, if this is striking a chord, subscribe and drop a like. New psychology videos every week on this channel, and every person who subscribes helps us keep making them. Back to it. There's something specific that makes being left unread worse than never being seen at all. It's the confirmation. When a message goes unread, there's still ambiguity. Maybe they're busy, maybe they haven't checked, maybe life intervened. You can hold on to uncertainty as a buffer against the conclusion your brain wants to draw. But read receipts, remove the ambiguity. Someone saw your words. They made a decision, conscious or not, and the decision was not now, or not at all. Psychologically, this lands differently than simple non-response. It closes the loop on a story your brain was keeping open. It converts uncertainty into conclusion, and the conclusion the threatened brain most readily reaches isn't "they're busy," it's "I don't matter enough." This is a cognitive distortion, a mental shortcut that substitutes a catastrophic explanation for an unknown one. But your brain doesn't flag it as a distortion. It feels like a logical deduction. Williams also studied what people do after being excluded. Some people become more pro-social. They try harder. They go out of their way to connect with others, to be helpful, to signal their value. This is the belong restoration strategy, the reflexive reach for reconnection. But others become antisocial. They withdraw, or in some cases become aggressive. Not because they're malicious, but because exclusion under certain conditions triggers something Williams called the tend or defend response. Either you pull people toward you, or you prepare to face the world alone. Which direction someone goes depends on a few things: their attachment history, how chronic the exclusion has been, and whether they believe reconnection is possible. People who believe they can reconnect tend to reach out. People who don't tend to go quiet and get quieter over time. This is the physiology behind ghosting's long tail. It's not just one unanswered message. It's what happens to someone's relationship with connection after enough unanswered messages. There's one more piece worth knowing. The brain's response to social exclusion can be reduced, not eliminated, but meaningfully reduced, by finding connection elsewhere. Williams found that even small acts of social inclusion after exclusion partially restored the damaged needs. Being smiled at by a stranger, having someone hold a door, a brief friendly exchange with someone at a coffee shop. The brain's social accounting system is surprisingly indiscriminate. It doesn't insist that belonging come from the specific person who rejected you. It accepts belonging from wherever it can find it. This is why, when you're feeling ignored or invisible, the counterintuitive move isn't to try harder with the person who isn't responding. It's to go somewhere you are responded to. It's to find the room where you're seen, even if it's a different room than the one you expected. The pain of being ignored is real. The brain that feels it is not broken, and the antidote, as it turns out, is much more available than it seems. If this explains something you've been carrying around without words for it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, like the video if it hit. Subscribe for new psychology content every single week and bring someone with you. Every subscriber makes this channel possible, and we're just getting started. We'll see you in the next one.